Hey guys, what's up? So, in this video we are going to be doing a review of something I recently opened on camera. The Sega Super Premium Figure Case Files of Lord El Malloy II, Gray. Now, like most Sega Premium figures, super nice. The paint job is great. That face sculpt, like usual, is very, very nice. Let me get her in camera for you. There we go. Focus. Focus. There we go. The eye typography is beautiful. Well, the painting around some parts of the neck area, like around here, a little bit sloppy. A bit of cloudiness. Just be expected for such a small detail. Another amazing detail is the lantern. The work on the lantern looks great. The little logo, all the line work, the gold work looks great. The striping on the skirt's great. All the detail on the boots with the logos, the studs on the straps, the leggings, and even the cloak looks nice. The cloak here has a little bit of a subtle black shadow into it. The fur pelt looks nice. Now, let's get into the actual main pros and cons of this figure. She does feel a little bit cheaper compared to some of the other Sega figures, given the fact that other than the black shading on the gray cloak, there's no shading anywhere else. There's no shading on the skin. There's no shading on the legs. There's no shading on the leggings. There's no shading on the boots. There's nothing on the gloves. There's nothing on the lighter gray part of the fur up here. There's nothing to wash. It's just kind of cast plastic. While it is color accurate, it's also very sort of cheap in the way it comes off. But I do have to admit, what details they didn't have to skimp on look gorgeous. I mean, this is a very pretty accessory. This is now in the abyss under my desk. This is a very pretty accessory. It's done well. Focus. Very pretty because it's very well done. All the little detail scroll work, the top's nice. Everything there. You know, what detail is there on the lantern and there on the clothing looks good. It's just everything could use wash or a little bit of shading here and there, because what is here feels very lackluster, a little bit cheap. Now, of course, if you're a Type Moon or Fate fan, obviously she's a must-buy into the collection, but is she really, considering she's going to look a lot cheaper than some of the figures in your collection? Now, if you're like me and you're an Alteria fan, it's a no-brainer. You'll probably want her to add to the variety of different versions of Alteria you already probably have. I don't have problems, I swear. We Alteria fans are normal. But I would recommend her to the extent of you're already a fan of the character or you like the design. I wouldn't try to really seek the figure out, given the fact that she looks much cheaper. She looks probably the most like a prize figure out of a lot of the Sega Super Premium figures. I have kept the box here in the background so that you can just, you know, if you want to source her out, you have an image here to do it with. If you want to source the figure out, you can. She's by no means a bad figure. She's just a little lackluster in spots, and there are times when really she shouldn't be, especially in areas like around the fur collar and certain parts of the cloak. She doesn't need to be that cheaply done. Like, you have a little bit of a dark wash there at the bottom, but you don't really have any shadows per se. Same here. You've got a little bit here in the light gray, but the dark gray you have nothing, which would be nice if you had something. But of course that's made up for when you look at the typography on the face. The eyes look gorgeous. The mouth is the usual little slit, but it looks good. It's got a little bit of pink in there. It's nice. The hair, being this sort of primer gray color, though, could be a little bit nicer. I would much rather prefer a little bit of shading in there. You know, nothing crazy, but maybe like a blue for parts of the hood, and then do some blonde accents or little yellow chunks here in parts of the hair, because it looks very cheap being just primer gray. It looks unfinished. That's what it reminds me of. But I would say if you can find her for a reasonable price, of course being under $50, I would recommend it. I wouldn't spend anything more than that, though, given the fact that she's a little lackluster in spots, and really none of that's made up for with anything. You can't really count one accessory as a means of making up for no shading on 80% of the figure or in the hair. You know, you can't make up this little small accessory as that. Also, this accessory set's weird. To get it set right, you have to find a little sweet spot there in the fingers, a little notch. I do like that they did enough color clarity and color differentiation between the gloves being glossy, the jacket being kind of a matte finish, the leggings being a dark blue, the boots being a real deep brown, kind of a satin finish, and the cloaks being, of course, a satin finish in their darker colors. I think it's a good look. I just think that that look needs a little more color. It's a little more shading to break it up a bit, because it is a boring design being all gray, being just a lady in a gray outfit with a gray skirt. You know, being Alteria, the schoolgirl edition. I would recommend, if you do get her, probably put her on a display where you have a lot more monochrome figures, or you need a little pop of like a monochrome color palette in a bright display, because she will do that. But aside from that, she does kind of blend in with certain figures on a shelf, especially a lot of Type Moon characters. She kind of just blends in there, kind of hides in the background, which is really kind of sad, but she's not bad. I'll probably get El Malloy to go with her, because, you know, you got to have the duo. But if you can find her for a reasonable price, and if you're willing to live with some of the issues of lack of color, lack of shading, lack of depth, like if you look at the box art, you'll see there's some blue shading on parts of the hood, and I think that would have looked better doing blue or light gray shading on all of this. It's not there, but again, for something that was considered a prize figure, it's not bad, but there definitely could be a little more effort put into everything. By no means is she a bad figure, but she's also by no means something I would go out to find for like $50. I would keep it reasonable at about, try to go for roughly about $35. Hopefully you guys liked this and it helped you make a smarter purchasing decision with your hobby dollars. And if it did, or if you just want to talk about Type Moon or any Fate merchandise, let me know down below. Leave a comment. If you liked this and you want to share this with other weebs or other Type Moon fans, which is exactly what we are, share this video with your friends. Thanks. I'll see you guys in the next one.